Hello and welcome back to Switch and Lever. It's no secret I love going to flea markets, and a little while back I picked up this beautiful little Anvil Vice combo. While much of the patination and wear is quite attractive, I still wanted to make sure it was a functional piece as well. In this video we will clean up the jaws of the Vice, flatten and restore the top of the Anvil, and finally build a new base for it to sit on. So let's get started. Unfortunately I don't have a surface grinder, but at least I can MacGyver one together using a milling machine. To get the jaws parallel with each other and the anvil, I clamped the jaws together in an open position using a pair of parallels and dialed in the side of the anvil so it sat square to the mill. This did take a while with plenty of tapping back and forth until it sat reasonably square. Once square, I mounted a stone from a Dremel tool in the mill and went to town, removing material little by little from each jaw until it had a proper clean surface. Don't go at it too hard, just remove a few thousandths with each pass. Make sure you clean the milling table properly once you're done, as it's going to be coated with stone dust, which will act as an abrasive and wear down the table. The top of the anvil requires a more manual solution. Color the top with a Sharpie and get yourself a good file. What we're doing here is draw filing, which is basically holding the file sideways and drawing it towards you across the surface. This creates a very smooth and level surface, and with the Sharpie mark you can easily see where you're removing material and how much you still have left to go. When you're done and all the Sharpie mark is gone, you could call it a day. Or you could grab some fine grit wet and dry sandpaper and tune it up even more. Here I'm using 556 as a lubricant. It's basically just WD-40 by another name and another smell. But you could use any light oil or cutting fluid that will help in preventing the sandpaper from getting clogged with material. Look at that! A beautiful anvil with vice jaws which meet properly, barring one tiny little ding. However, we can't just leave it alone here, can we? Grab yourself a piece of hardwood, white oak works great, and file down the edges roughly with a rasp. Don't worry about smoothing things too much. All you're aiming for is a rough shape to work from. In a sense, the rougher, the better. If you like toast, you're probably going to like the next step. Grab a torch, oxyacetylene, propane, anything which will put out some good BTUs, and start toasting that wood. Go slow, get the wood up to heat and work it little by little until the surface is getting progressively darker and charred. What we're doing here is a Japanese process called Shou Sugi Ban, where you char the top of the surface of the wood to preserve it. Here we're using it both to preserve the wood, but also for aesthetics, as it gives a beautiful burnt wood grain look to the piece. In case of any small fires, you can just tap them out. You want the top surface to char, not the wood to go up in a blaze. When the entire piece has been charred and is still warm, grab some homemade paste wax. What? You don't have any homemade paste wax? Okay. Pause the video, let's take a little detour. Grab some beeswax and grate it into a bowl. Measure up a random amount of wax in a can and melt it in a water bath. Don't put it directly on a hot plate, you really don't want to burn the wax. As it's melting, cut the wax with some mineral oil. You can choose your own amount. I went about 1/3 wax to 2/3 oil. There are plenty of recipes for paste wax, and this is probably the most simple one. You can search online and you can find one which fits just you. For instance, you can add carnauba wax as well to give a stiffer wax, which will have more of a shine when applied. Once it's all molten down, remove from the heat and wait until it's cooled down and fully solidified. Then go back to burning wood once again. So anyway, once you've charred the entire piece and it's still warm, grab a good piece of coarse Scotch-Brite, apply some paste wax to it and start vigorously scrubbing the wood. It's a bit of a messy process as you're essentially scrubbing off all the loose particulate and working in the paste wax into the wood. The good thing is that the paste wax will bind much of the semi-loose particles and seal the wood up nicely, so your hands won't turn black every time you touch it. If you're not happy with how a place looks like, you can reapply more heat. Just be aware that you have to apply new paste wax as well, as you will have burnt that off in the process. When the wood has cooled down, you can further polish it up. Just grab a rag and polish the piece. This should get rid of any last remaining parts of soot and bring a further sheen to the surface. Isn't that just beautiful? Time for the final assembly. Mark, drill and mount the anvil on its new base. Pre-drill so you don't split the wood and drive in the screws. This, if anything, is not rocket surgery. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like what you've seen, and tell me in the comments if you want to see more on this topic. I have many tools in need of restoration. While your wood is cooling down, why don't you check out some other videos from Switch and Lever? Also follow along on social media. Much of what you see here on YouTube got a sneak peek on Instagram well in advance. Until next time!